I've been waiting for you. Hello YouTubers, you're in an all-new episode of Action Reaction, and today I'm going to be going over my thoughts on the 2015 film Terminator Genisys. Terminator Genisys, of course, is the fourth sequel to The Terminator. It started with James Cameron's cult 1984 film, then the greatest sequel of all time, Terminator 2 Judgment Day in 1991, and then 12 years after that we had a sequel called Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, with Terminator Salvation following. So Terminator Genisys is the fifth film, and of course, as you may know, they're doing away with all the sequels, so really, it ended with Terminator 2 Judgment Day. But with this, I like it. It does some things to continue from the other films, but it also is a soft reboot. I love this film. I like all the Terminator films. I was even a huge fan of Terminator the Sarah Connor Chronicles. But I have to say, for all of its shortcomings, I really enjoy this more than I did T3 and then some of T4 to a degree. And we also get an Arnold Schwarzenegger who is very fit and just all around kick-ass in this as the Guardian, as Pops the T-800. It's weird how he seems younger in this film than he did in Terminator 3. It just amazes me. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Guardian, but this time we have Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones as Sarah Connor, Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese, Jason Clarke as John Connor, with an appearance by J.K. Simmons. It is directed by Alan Taylor. He, of course, directed Thor: The Dark World and Game of Thrones episodes, and it is written by Laeta Kalogridis and Patrick Lussier. Terminator Genisys pretty much takes place in the future. It starts right after Terminator Salvation, but this time we're back to the original timeline of Judgment Day, taking place in 1997. I know a lot of fans complain about what this did to the previous films, but I like the fact that they respected the series enough to go back to the 1997 timeline. The first 30 minutes are phenomenal. Even with the computerized machines, we get a full-blown future war, and it's been a while since we saw that, and I really like it. It's pretty much the end of Terminator Dawn of Fate, the video game. Kyle Reese and John Connor must go to the Skynet base, destroy it, but the T-800 from the first film is going to the Time Displacement Center onto the year 1984. So we get to see the events of T1 that were described. And it's really fantastic. It's a very action-packed opening for Terminator. Of course, there's more than meets the eye with this. There's a threat that they did not foresee, and Kyle is sent back. The main gist of the story is different. You find out that Sarah Connor is not the same woman from the first film. In fact, a Terminator from the future was sent before 1984 and killed Sarah Connor's parents. That is Arnold Schwarzenegger's character of the Guardian. He is her protector and he trained her, so she's a very different Sarah Connor. We also get an appearance of the T-1000. Yeah, freaking Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe. Such a cool homage to the first movie. As a matter of fact, it is very faithful. We also get a Guardian fight with the T-800. I really like older and younger Arnold Schwarzenegger going against each other. Although some of the CGI is a bit cheap and he's defeated too easily. If there's one con with this film is that this film tries to do too much and just feels rushed. They deal with the threat of the T-1000 and they realize that Genisys is this device, basically Apple computers, that starts Skynet. Kyle Reese starts to have memories, and you find out that he has memories from the separate timeline they just created. So he is basically through a temporal nexus where he remembers both timelines from the original Terminator films and the one created for this film in Genisys. They must go to the future, and yeah, there's a lot of similarities to the Sarah Connor Chronicles. There's another police officer there that saw Kyle Reese. He's now older and played by J.K. Simmons. They're in the future, and all of a sudden John Connor is there. John Connor is not good. John Connor is a Terminator now. Skynet corrupted him and put nanites and made him a new Terminator. So now the future of mankind is lost, and it's up to Sarah, Kyle Reese, and the Guardian to destroy Skynet. And that's pretty much the plot. It has some great action scenes. The helicopter chase is phenomenal. The school bus, again, you have some unrealistic humor-filled scenes, kind of like T3, but certain scenes do leave you with awe and wonder. It's just the plot. It just is too rushed. If they just stuck it in 1984 or the future by itself without trying to rush through 3 movies in one movie, then we might have actually had a very decent Terminator sequel. There's a lot of good material here, but it just does not have enough time to flourish. Emilia Clarke does a good job as Sarah Connor. I think she's a little bit too short compared to Linda Hamilton and doesn't appear as strong-like, but there's certain moments that she does mirror Linda Hamilton, and it's kind of scary. It's weird, and actually, Emily Blunt was actually in consideration for Sarah Connor. I think she might have done a better job, but Emilia Clarke is talented, and she does the best with what she has. A surprise to me is Jai Courtney. I did not like him in A Good Day to Die Hard, but I kind of liked him in this film. Now, he is no Michael Biehn, and I'm surprised they didn't get Anton Yelchin. That guy nailed his Michael Biehn impression. This guy's nothing like Kyle Reese, and he's like big and fit. He's nothing like the characteristics of Kyle Reese. That's insulting. But at the same time, the creators said that they want to basically have a different Kyle Reese. They didn't want to try to imitate the original. They wanted this to stand on its own, which I agree. I can see why they did that. You don't have to compare it to the other, but with so many similarities and scenes being recreated, it's kind of hard not to compare it, and I think this film would have been much stronger if they tried to tie the characters more closely to the appearance that they were in the Terminator. That really would have made a cool film, because this isn't exactly like Star Trek where you could have different people in an alternate timeline. It is an alternate timeline, but you're going through events that were seen in the first film. But they do their best to recreate it. And some of the scenes, again, are just straight from the first film. As a Terminator fan, I was just like, wow, now that's kind of cool. And the idea of alternate universe is very interesting. They just don't fully explore it. And this was supposed to be a trilogy. And they scrapped the trilogy, and that's what really hurts this film. They leave too much open for future films instead of answering them in this film. And that's a problem that a lot of franchise films and sequel/reboots have in this day and age. I do like the Guardian, however, aging. Arnold Schwarzenegger looking his age. That's a very cool element because it is living human tissue over cybernetic endoskeleton. And that's pretty cool having a Terminator age. I like the relationship between him and Sarah Connor. Again, it defines what makes us human. How much value can a machine learn? Like it in T2 with the T-800 and John. We get to learn that with Guardian and Sarah Connor. And Jason Clarke does a good John Connor. I'm just tired of them recasting the actor. Christian Bale was asked to come back, but with scheduling conflicts, he did not reprise his role, which surprises me, but it would have been kind of cool seeing a bad Christian Bale, because that was an unused idea from T4 to have an Skynet infiltrate John Connor's body at the end of T4. There's just a lot of cool elements that they did not use, and I'm kind of upset that it is in 97, because if Terminator Salvation introduced a future that was different, maybe if the future changed, perhaps the past could have changed. And that would have been a better explanation for this than the whole alternate timeline. You could have still introduced an alternate timeline, but it would have been cool if the changes in 2003 caused a change in the future, which in hence caused a change in the past. So much time travel, really. But, yeah. Despite the really bad effects and budget in some parts, I do like the action sequences, the fight, the music. Lauren Baffel's score, yeah, he did Assassin's Creed. This score is phenomenal. It goes back to that Terminator 2 vibe from Brad Fiedel. Oh my god, I love the score. That yeah, Sarah Kicks Ass is an awesome track. I love the part where she saves Kyle Reese, and the whole jokes between her and Kyle Reese basically mating is kind of funny. And the kind of competition Kyle Reese and the Guardian have. Above all, it's an action-packed finale, and it's heartfelt. It's a very, very heartfelt finale. I haven't felt that sad since the end of T2, but it leaves some hope for the future, and really a bright future that was open. Of course, there's a mid-credit scene of Skynet rebooting, and it's just kind of weird having so much build-up and foreshadowing for future films we do not see. I bet you that whoever wiped the memory banks of the Guardian, the T-800, had to be John Connor's kids. But it just upsets me. I don't know how they're going to do the next one, but it would have been cool if they had an alternate timeline and just used the ending they did not use in T2. And this time, with Kyle Reese alive, have Michael Biehn and Linda Hamilton alive as Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. And if you can get Edward Furlong back as John Connor, that would have been cool. That would have been like a happy ending at its utmost satisfaction, and they didn't go there. I don't know if it was going there before, but it just hurts that they decided not to do the sequels, considering they said no matter how it performs, they're going to do it. But James Cameron's getting the rights. Tim Miller, who did Deadpool, is doing the new Terminator, and it's going to pretty much retcon 3 through 5. So I hope the payoff is well done. They're doing that with Halloween, but Terminator Genisys is one of those films where not many people liked it. I can see where it can insult people, but I personally enjoyed it, and I love all the Terminator films. Some Terminator is better than no Terminator, but let's face it, nothing's going to top the first 2 James Cameron films. This film series kind of reminds me of Underworld, where the first 2 were written and directed by one individual. The sequels just kind of progressively got further and further away from what it originally was, and that's what ultimately Terminator reminds me of. But I do commend Arnold Schwarzenegger. He gives one of his best performances as the Terminator in this. Especially the part where he's like, I'll be back, and kamikazes himself into the freaking helicopter. That was awesome. There's some 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger type of moments that just make you just root for him, you know? If you're a kid in the 90s or like in the 80s even, if you remember watching Arnold Schwarzenegger action films, no matter what age you are, this film kind of brings some of that same joy back. It just makes me wonder what this film could have been. And did they have to necessarily go in that direction? I don't know, but I still give it a 3 out of 5, a 7 out of 10, and a B. Terminator Genisys is not the best film. It's not the best Terminator film, but it's among one of the most enjoyable, and I think it's probably my personal favorite out of the sequels. Even though I think Terminator Salvation is probably the best made one, I really like a lot of stuff in Genisys. Even though it's not the best, it still had a lot of respect for the first 2 films and its mythology. I just wish that it did more with it and did more to try to make it look like the original films, you know? Try to make the cast feel more like Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn. If they did more of that and made it R instead of this PG-13 family nonsense, I think we would have had a really, really great movie. But again, the plot issues, the script, story, the feeling of just urgency and it being rushed, and the really bad special effects at time bring this down a couple of notches. But it makes me wonder what the other 2 films would have been like in this trilogy. It has its cool moments, but you know what? They're all going to be retcons, so who cares? A 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10, and a B. It is what it is. It's Genisys. Although I don't know why they spelled it like Genisystem. It's Genisys. I don't know. When I heard the title, I thought of Sega Genesis. That's just my action reaction of Terminator Genisys, and that does it for my Terminator reviews until we get the real T3 coming out in a couple of years. If you like this video, feel free to click the like button and also check out my other Terminator reviews on the channel. I have the previous 4 films. Feel free to check those out, and in the comments below, if you've seen Terminator Genisys, let me know what you thought of the film. What's your favorite Terminator film? What's your favorite Terminator moment? Just let me know in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out, but I highly recommend the first 2 movies. If you've never seen any of the Terminator films, check the originals. Seriously. That's it for this action reaction. Click the like button, comment down in the comments below, and subscribe for more videos. Oh yeah, before I go, I also like how they used the song I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones. That was actually supposed to be used in T2 when John Connor was listening to Guns N' Roses. That was a song in the script, so that was a nice little homage.